Stay frosty and head over to easymutt.com for the cheapest mutt coins on the market. And when I say cheapest, I mean it. We're talking 1 million coins for around 40 bucks. Use code DIRECTOR for 5% off. Yo, what up, brothers? What's up? It's the Director. Chargers fans, well, we got something to talk about today, okay? Rumor mill is a churning, and it seems that our starting right guard in Trai Turner may be moving on from the Los Angeles Chargers this offseason. Now, the Chargers' biggest offseason need is obviously going to be offensive line. So starting by cutting our starting right guard, what are we thinking? Well, there is a bigger picture to this. First, let's kind of look at the article itself. The title here, Chargers Rumors. Trai Turner expected to be traded or released in the near future. Now, when it says rumors here, I actually think this is a bit more validated than more other things that we've seen in the past few weeks. Let's actually read on a little bit here. It does come from ESPN's Adam Schefter. The Los Angeles Chargers are reportedly actively shopping veteran guard Trai Turner on the trade market. According to ESPN's Adam Schefter, Turner is due to make $11.5 million in 2021, and that the Chargers are expected to trade or release him in the near future. Could the Chargers possibly trade Trai Turner? What can we get in return? What are the consequences, the both negative and positive consequences of letting him go? And what's the move for the Chargers going forward if we are missing our starting right guard? Because again, the Chargers offensive line needs a lot of help. This might be a move in the right direction. I hate to say it. I love Trai Turner, but he definitely fell off a cliff last season when it came to his production. And I think the Chargers, you know, we're kind of like that gun at the starting point of a race that it's gone off. You know, things are going in motion. The tag deadline's coming up on the 9th. Free agency officially starts on the 15th. So things are about to happen, guys. Stay frosty. We're going to start with this one here on Trai Turner, kind of focus on what the move is once we decide to trade or release him. Before we do get started, guys, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this content. The small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into this one. Lights, camera, action. The Chargers are likely going to be cutting our guard, Trai Turner, very, very soon. Trading or cutting, what's going to happen? So first off, let's actually go over this rumor here. Expected to be traded or released. Now, what is more likely? Is he going to be traded or released? Well, first, let's kind of take a look at the player, Trai Turner, this last season. Now, honestly, Trai Turner, this wasn't his best season, I would say, by far. You guys can kind of take a look at his performance here on PFF. Via the last several seasons, he started off pretty decent, kind of a breakout year in 2015, and then slowly but surely and consistently like declining until 2020 with the Chargers. Now, I don't know what happened. Maybe a lack of a scheme fit, maybe the consistent injuries, but I think we were hoping to get something close between 63.9, 67.9 as far as his performance. We ended up having the worst year in his career by far, grading out at 51.3 as a pass blocker and 29.8 as a run blocker, offensive grade at 34.8. That is terrible. Honestly, I was looking at the line for the Austin Eckler video the other day, and I noticed that Trai Turner actually had the worst grade on this line. And this is a line that touted Sam Tevi, Forrest Lamp, Dan Feeney. You know, some of those guys have spots in which they shine, but for the most part, when you bring in a guy like Trai Turner in the last offseason in 2020, you really expected to have more production out of him. Now, why did this happen? I think a lot of people would say it's because of the injury kind of wave that he hit in 2020. Obviously not seeing the field very much, and when he did, maybe that injury did linger enough to affect his performance so dramatically. Now, this has a lot of Chargers fans asking, is it the right move then? Is it the right move to be cutting Trai Turner when maybe he just had a bad year? And my answer is probably still going to be yes. If we were in a different circumstance, Chargers fans, where maybe like the whole situation with Justin Herbert is what has me most concerned, okay? There are situations where I'm like, okay, maybe he just had a bad year. We probably should keep him on the roster. And then there's other situations of where Justin Herbert's here on his rookie contract. The whole league was just kind of like scared off as far as not having a good offensive line with what happened to Joe Burrow last season. And I think the Chargers at this point in time, especially with the specific financial circumstances revolving around the league due to the pandemic, will have enough space if they cut Trai Turner to kind of flip the script, get a guard in here that actually will instill more confidence in the Chargers as far as the protection for Justin Herbert and opening up running lanes for Austin Eckler. So what happens if we do cut or trade Trai Turner? Now, really quickly, I almost forgot to answer my own question here. Is it more likely that we cut or trade him? Well, based on what we're seeing here on PFF, I don't see the Chargers getting much in return, if anything, in trying to trade a player that had such a dramatic drop-off last season. Maybe there's a team out there that's like, we'll take a shot on him. Maybe he's worth like a 7th or 6th rounder. I think that still is highly unlikely. I've seen Chargers fans saying, let's try and get a 4th for him, maybe a 3rd. I think that's really out of the realm of possibilities at this point. I think the most likely scenario the Chargers are going to see is a cutting scenario where he is just straight off let off the team. And unfortunately, I don't think the Chargers have any leverage as far as trade value in the situation. So if I'm predicting things, I'm going to say that Trai Turner probably does get cut here in the next couple of days, if not the next week, guys. I think it's going to happen very soon, seeing his free agency is coming up very soon on the 15th, and the Chargers are going to need to find a way, an avenue to solve this vacancy at right guard. And I think, honestly, it most likely could come through free agency. So in free agency, though, how much is it going to cost the Chargers to solve this vacancy at right guard? Well, first, let's see how much we're saving from cutting Trai Turner if that does indeed happen. Right now on SpotRack, it does say the Chargers will save around $11.2 million. I've seen it as high as 11.5, but let's just go ahead and say like 11.2 just to be safe. $11.2 million with no dead cap. I think that's a big reason why we could just see him straight up cut. Now, in this case, it would be a pre-June 1st release with a $0 dead cap and a cap savings of $11.2 million. It's a lot of money, man. If we're talking about upgrades to the offensive line, let's say we go after a guy that's worth, I don't know, $16 million. This $11.2 million could definitely come in handy to bring in a hugely, like, quality offensive lineman in the stead of Trai Turner. Just keep that in mind. We might not find a guy as cheap as Trai Turner. In no regards is this, like, absolutely cheap. We can definitely find a nice replacement for around $10 million, but we can definitely use that $11 million towards one of the better offensive linemen in the league in free agency. Now, the Chargers, in saving $11.5 million, let's take a look here. Estimated cap space, after everything's been considered, as of right now, is $32.6 million. In cutting Trai Turner, we'd be, what, at 32.8, almost 34 or $44 million in cap space. And honestly, that's pretty significant. $44 million in cap space right now could spell out, I think, a top 5 or 6 team as far as cap space this season, and that's what I like to call leverage. Yesterday in our GM Tom Telesco's press conference, he did talk about we didn't have like a ton of money to spend, but we do have some wiggle room. I also see it as leverage. Okay, I think that the Chargers have a leg up on what, like 25, 26, 27 teams in the league at this point, depending on how much we do save by cutting Trai Turner. I think that's leverage that needs to be used strategically. That money can be very well spent in a year where a lot of free agents, and I'm hearing that a lot of free agents are going to get cut this season, and we're going to see a ridiculous amount of one-year offers on the cheap. Okay, just as an example, I think it's very likely that Jadeveon Clowney, who's one of those risky guys, could be signed for under $6 million. And in previous years, I don't know if that would be possible. I think those kind of signings are possible this season. And aging vets, I think especially going to have to take pay cuts in this season. So having that extra $11.5 million could definitely come in handy in 2021 specifically. Okay, so in figuring out replacements for Trai Turner, the Chargers desperately need to fix this offensive line. What are the moves that we're looking at right now? Well, first off, there's been some guys connected to the Chargers via articles and stuff like that. Brandon Sheriff. Okay, this is a great example of why you make these decisions. Again, Trai Turner getting cut, we're going to be saving around $11.5 million. Brandon Sheriff, like I meant before, he's going to be more expensive, but it's going to be an upgrade to this line, which costs an additional, what, like $1 million, $1.2 million? That's pretty insane, because Brandon Sheriff right now is one of the best guards in the game of football. And if we cut Trai Turner and sign him for $12.7 million annually, who knows how long the contract will be. I think they say here 5 years is most likely. How old is he? 29 years old, Brandon Sheriff. What do you guys think, Chargers fans? In cutting Trai Turner, would you be happy in signing a Brandon Sheriff in his stead? It would cost the Chargers $1 million more than we were spending on Trai Turner, but I think the productivity you would be getting out of Brandon Sheriff is dramatically higher. Now, the problem here is, what was nice about Trai Turner in that trade with the Carolina Panthers, we sent over Russell Okung to receive Trai Turner, is that Trai Turner did not have any guaranteed money. So if something happened this last season, we had this option to let him go without any dead cap. Okay, and that's pretty significant when you're talking about times like these. If we sign Brandon Sheriff and the same thing happens, likely he's going to be on a multi-year contract, and we're in trouble. So just kind of keep that in mind when it comes to the pros and cons. I would still do it, honestly. I think Brandon Sheriff has a lot left in the tank. He's one of the best in the league, and you're talking about an upgrade of that position for $1 million. I think it's a no-brainer for me. Now, talking about another free agent guy, Joe Tooney. Now, this guy I do not think is going to hit the open market. I think the Patriots are one of the best as far as cap situations right now. I think they'd be crazy to let go of a 28-year-old guard who's probably one of the best in the league. Taking a look at his market value, be about $15.3 million. Again, in cutting Trai Turner, you're talking about an immediate upgrade for around $4 million. An additional $4 million gets you one of the best guards in the league. Now, honestly, I do think that Tooney plays left guard, but there is some versatility there. Even if we plug him at left guard, we can put like Forrest Lamp or somebody else that we re-signed from our roster at right guard and try and fill out those holes, because we do have Brian Bulaga on the right tackle position as well. So maybe spreading things out wouldn't be a bad idea, but very, very big fan of Joe Tooney to the Chargers. I think that would be excellent. And then there's also other options, guys, as far as like maybe the Chargers, they have to find an answer elsewhere at right guard, but we can use that money to get maybe like a tackle. Alejandro Villanueva comes to mind. I think I saw an article yesterday that the Chargers would be a great candidate for Trent Williams, and Trent Williams would be an $18 million contract annually. So we're going to need some kind of, head start as far as cap space. I don't know how likely that would be. It just seems a little too expensive. But if the Chargers start making moves like we saw, or we're likely to see in the next couple of days, maybe we'll have the money to really reinforce this line even before the draft begins. Last couple of guys I think the Chargers could supplement Trai Turner with: Nick Easton. He's 28 years old. I think he's more of a depth piece. I mention him because he is from the New Orleans Saints. Our new offensive coordinator, Joe Lombardi, is connected to them very strongly. I think Nick Easton has a good shot at coming to the Bolts. But the biggest name I think the Chargers, as far as new right guard in contention, is going to be Larry Warford. Now, Larry Warford, I've mentioned him a couple of times in this channel. He opted out of the season last year due to COVID, so he has one less year of wear and tear on his body from the game of NFL football. As far as his contract, we only really have to go on, there's no market value thing right here. We really only have to go on his previous contracts with the Saints from 2017 and 2020. His average salary was $8.5 million. I would expect that maybe to be around where he re-signs. He's a little bit older. He hasn't played in a year. In most situations, I would say maybe he's more worth what we were paying Trai Turner. He's only 29 years old. He was probably as far as productivity, better than Trai Turner in some areas. But I see him as a quality add without completely breaking the bank. As a matter of fact, the Chargers would probably save a couple $1 million in swapping Trai Turner for Larry Warford. And again, the connection to Joe Lombardi, who came from the New Orleans Saints, who is now our offensive coordinator, that's a big reason why I think Larry Warford is heading to Los Angeles. But you guys let me know, as far as free agents, who you would want most. As far as a replacement for Trai Turner, let me know in the comment section below. My favorite is Brandon Sheriff. He plays the same exact position. He's only $1 million more expensive, and I think the kind of production you get out of Brandon Sheriff would be dramatically higher than Trai Turner, so just kind of keep that in mind. And then I think the most likely guy for me is going to be Larry Warford. Now, we can't forget the draft real quick. There's some guys I would love to see the Chargers draft, regardless of what happens, who we sign in the offseason, because I think a lot of these guys offer versatility. Elijah Vera Tucker's emerging as one of my favorite offensive line draft prospects this season. Very versatile. Honestly, you could play him pretty much at any position on that line. I think he's projected to be a left guard or left tackle in the league. Right now, he says he's starting left guard in the NFL. So if we can't move somebody over to right guard, I still think Vera Tucker can play right guard very, very well. If we end up getting a replacement for right guard and left guard, we could put Vera Tucker at left tackle and still feel very good. I just love the versatility of Elijah Vera Tucker. You guys go watch his tape from USC. He's absolutely one of the best players on that team. He'd be a great add this offseason. Next up, Wyatt Davis. I think he does play right guard. Yes, he does. Plug and play right guard. This is going to be a late first rounder, in my opinion. This is kind of one of those guys that you have to consider trading back into the first round for, or if the Chargers decide to trade back, this has got to be one of those guys that you're targeting if Elijah Vera Tucker is off the table. I think he'd be a very good replacement for the Chargers. And then lastly, we still have Landon Dickerson on the table. And again, his injury concern does worry me a little bit, but his versatility kind of makes up for it for me. He can be one of the best starting centers in this draft class, or even a guard. I think they have him listed as guard here, even on this website. Yeah, starting guard or center. Okay, and that's pretty significant. If the Chargers decide to sign Corey Linsley, that's great. If we don't, grabbing a Landon Dickerson could be very good. And again, if we do sign a guy like Corey Linsley, we could still start Landon Dickerson at guard and feel pretty good about it. So the Chargers have options. I think the final thing I want to walk away from this is the Chargers are probably making the right move here, okay? As much as I hate to say it, because I do love Trai Turner. He's a great guy. You know, I've read a lot of stuff that he's posted on Twitter. I think he's responded a couple of times to me even. But the fact of the matter is we have a brand new quarterback, a brand new face of the franchise, okay? And we had one of the worst offensive lines last season. We saw firsthand what can happen to a quarterback with a lack of protection in Joe Burrow. We don't want to see that happen to Justin Herbert. We really don't need to see that happen to Justin Herbert. And the biggest thing that I think that we're disregarding even on this channel, even Tom Telesco mentioned yesterday, the run game's not too good. And it's because of the lack of production from the offensive line. I think Austin Eckler, like I said a couple days ago, has the potential to have production similar to Alvin Kamara. Not Alvin Kamara 100%, but closer to his numbers than we even realize. And it all starts in the trenches with this offensive line. So you guys in the comment section below, let me know your perfect scenario in replacing Trai Turner. Would you guys rather get somebody, you know, through the draft, maybe like a Wyatt Davis to step in there and play right guard right away? Or are you comfortable spending up and grabbing a guy like Brandon Sheriff? I'm going to go ahead and let you guys post your replies in the comments before I give you my official opinion. Hurry up, pause this video, do what you got to do. My official stance on this is that I hope the Chargers go after this man right here, Brandon Sheriff. I really would like Larry Warford as well. I'd feel very comfortable with that. But again, just seeing the numbers, $11.5 million saved, $12.7 million spent, and we have one of the best right guards in the league. I think that's a win-win in my opinion. Well, guys, if you did enjoy this video, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. Hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. This has been The Director. We'll see you next time, and as always, bolt up and stay frosty.